Greetings and welcome to this edition of Rock County Civics Academy. The Rock County Civics Academy is a production of Common Sense Reestablished LLC, a public affairs communications company dedicated to community service, focusing on gathering and disseminating information regarding matters of public interest and encouraging public debate and discussion of matters of importance. We are not affiliated with any organized or unorganized political organization and exist for the sole purpose of providing a source of unbiased fact without hyperbole or colored by bias. We believe that a healthy discussion and debate of the merits of matters of public interest should be encouraged and supported. Our ability to provide these Rock County Civics Academy presentations is solely dependent upon the financial and other support we receive from our growing family of benefactors and you, our faithful listeners. Our growing list of benefactors include Big Radio, WCLO, WJVL, Have Camera Wisconsin, Tom Edwards, Ragnar Ltd, and Ragnar Software, RagnarSoft.com, Havana Coffee on Milton Avenue, the John Westfall family, the Italian House, and JATV Channel 994, Local Access, and JATV Media. If you believe in our mission, we will welcome your financial support. Materials explaining our mission and financial support opportunities are available at the registration desk or by visiting our website, commonsenserockcounty.org. Our programs are provided live on tape on JATV, Local Access, and YouTube. Out of respect for our guests, we ask that you silence your cell phones and remember you are a part of an important interactive telecast that many rely upon as their primary source of unbiased information about the critical issues that affect you every day here in the Rock River Valley. And now, we turn things over to Rich Gruber, who will introduce this edition's program and guests.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening and welcome. Our program this evening is being held in the Bernie Westland Memorial Chapel, which is in the old main building at historic Milton College here in the city of Milton. We want to express our appreciation to Doug Welsh and the Milton College Preservation Society for making the facility available to us tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce candidates for the Milton City Council seat. There are 4 candidates, and 3 of whom are here tonight, and I'll start at the far end of the table. Sharla Walker, welcome.
Thank you.
Theresa Rusch, welcome. It's nice to have you.
Thank you.
And Nancy Lauder, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The 4th candidate who cannot be here tonight is Bill Wilson, and he wrote a brief letter that I'm going to offer to read in to the evening's record from Bill. I want to apologize for my absence from the candidate forum this evening. I truly wish that I could have been there in person. Unfortunately, the time and date of the forum exactly corresponds with the meeting of the Rock County Board of Supervisors. In addition to serving as an alderman on the Milton City Council, I also represent District 5, the city of Milton, on the county board. In short, the reason I'm not there with you this evening is that I'm participating in a county board meeting and at this very moment, and I can't be in 2 places at once. Bill goes on, I've lived in Wisconsin for over 45 years, and my wife and I have lived in Milton for almost 25. I'm a librarian by profession. I work in libraries in La Crosse, Wisconsin Rapids, Milwaukee, Madison before moving to Milton. His wife is also a librarian, and they started a consulting firm working with libraries in 1987, and for over 30 years their small business has completed more than 500 projects in communities, both large and small, across the country. Soon after arriving in Milton, he was recruited to join the Milton Public Library Board, and he ended up serving on that board for 18 years and spearheaded the effort to expand and renovate the Shaw Building. He helped the library in its effort to raise nearly $2 million in donations and grant funds for the $3 million project. When he semi-retired in 2017, he began to consider ways in which he could more actively give back to the community that he believes has become his hometown. He ran for office and was first elected to the City Council in 2019 and was re-elected to a second term in 2020. Over the 4 years, he's served on a variety of city committees, including the Community Development Authority, the Joint Fire Commission. He's currently chair of the Public Works Committee and served as the council president in 2021. In addition, he has been the vice president of the Arrowhead Library System Board of Trustees and was recently appointed to represent Rock County on the new Prairie Lakes Library System Board. He's proud of his 4 years of service on the Milton City Council. Working with talented city staff and a dedicated council, he feels that he's been a part of a team that's reduced the city's burden by maintaining the city property tax rate at a level that's among the lowest in the county and has attracted new commercial, industrial, and residential development to ease the burden on city property taxpayers. He wants to end by saying a word about the recent consolidation of the Milton Township Fire Department into the Edgerton Fire District, soon to be known as Lakeside Fire Rescue District. Consolidation was very difficult, but very necessary decision. I went back and looked at my calendar and discovered that over the last few years, I've participated in more than 30 meetings in which various options, including maintaining the standalone Milton Township Fire Department, merging with Janesville, and the consolidation with Edgerton were examined in great detail. This wasn't a step that was taken lightly, and I believe that the unanimous votes in favor of consolidation that were taken by all the town boards and by the two city councils speaks to both the necessity of the step and to the meticulous efforts that resulted in the agreement and the budget that has been adopted. We can now rest assured that the residents of the city of Milton will continue to receive outstanding fire and emergency medical services. Appreciate your time and consideration of his candidacy, and again, he apologizes for not being at the forum. Copies of this will certainly be available to anyone who would like it, and just simply contact us and we'll make sure copies are made available to you. To the three candidates that are here tonight, though, let's start our conversation in a very straightforward, simple way. If you could, Sharla Walker, please introduce yourself and share with us why you're running for the Milton City Council.
Thank you for the invite tonight. This is my first political forum ever, and I am grateful to be here because some of you may know me or may not know me. I have Sharla's Coffee and Bakery, coffee next door on this amazing Milton historical campus. We have been around for almost 3 years. I'm actually a newer resident to Milton as well. I live here just now 2 years. I am on the Planning Commission, and I've been on the commission for almost 2 years. I'm also on the executive board for our youth coalition for about a year now. So as you can see, I have a passion for Milton. We started our business a year ago, or 3 years ago, and a year into it, we realized how amazing Milton was and how such a community that my husband and I had always dreamed of and knew we wanted to raise our children and grandchildren and anybody else who would move here. So why I'm running, I have a passion for Milton today and to make it even better tomorrow.
Thank you. Theresa Rusch, same question, please introduce yourself and share with us why you are running for the Milton City Council.
Okay. Theresa Rusch, I have lived here all my life. I worked for the school district of Milton for 35 years. Started out as a teacher, eventually as an administrator, left as my year as a superintendent, and in the middle of that year I was invited to join the city council. Have been then a part of the city council for the past 10 years, almost 10 years. I've found it very interesting to be a part of it. I found some similarities to a school district in some of the tax work and cooperation between the board and the city council. So I do appreciate the opportunity to work together and cooperatively in a group, and yeah, I've learned a great deal over that time. So I look forward to the opportunity to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Lauder, please introduce yourself and share with us why you're running for the Milton City Council.
My name is Nancy Lauder. I was on the City Council a few years ago. I moved to Milton about 45 years ago, sent my kids through the Milton school system, was active in the Milton Food Pantry for 14 years, and find that Milton is a wonderfully warm place to live. It has worked very hard to be, it has wonderful diverse employment opportunities at this point. Their industrial park took off well. They have been cultivating businesses very successfully, which I admire. And what we have is the image of a great walking destination, a library destination, a splash pad destination, the YMCA destination, and the gathering place, which is quite a unique senior center, and one that, since I'm a senior, I go to and enjoy very much. What I would like to do is to be part of continuing to improve things, and one of the part of my history has been being a landlord, so I look at things slightly differently and like to be able to share that there's more than one point of view on some of the housing issues. So I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to start off with the first question going to you, Nancy, if you would. What do you see as the most important issue facing the City Council?
At the moment, getting the revised fire department structure in a good place is what I am most concerned with. I was quite surprised that one of the earlier joint fire department meetings that the Milton firemen had not been aware of what was going on, which I found was an unfortunate way of doing things. But at this point, going forward, is going to be a lot of give and take, and what I'm most concerned about is the price tag that this comes with. I hope that as it evolves, that the price tag of these new projects will be shared with the taxpayers.
Thank you. Thank you. Theresa, same question. What do you see as the most important issue facing the City Council?
I think in working with moving forward, determining what the changes, if there are any, with the upcoming budget system in the state of Wisconsin. Will there be any changes as we move forward? Will they modify it before the 2024 budget process? And how that will affect the community level. I think we also need to look at how that affects the project coordination at the community level. Will there be funding to continue the projects that we have? And how our growth within the community also affects that. When we looked at the projects, the equalized valuation growth in the year 2022, it was 67 million growth compared to 31 million in the year 2020. Can the city and will the city continue to grow at that rate? While it doesn't necessarily affect our tax rate, it does affect many things around the community so that we can continue to grow and build things that attract people to our community. I'm ready. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharla Walker, same question. What do you see as the most important issues facing the City Council?
I think it's a really good question, and I've had to ask a lot of people. Being newer to Milton, I'm still trying to understand everything that, besides being a resident, and learning about the city itself, understanding on a deeper level what is impacting or what are our challenges going to be. Obviously, any uncertainty in state funding levels coming up with the 2024 budget process, that is always, and I know Theresa touched on this, just being attractive and maintaining and preserving our Milton way of life. We are Milton is what we like to say. What are we, how are we attracting our businesses? And I feel like Milton's done such an amazing job attracting great businesses, that what are we doing now? How can we grow with the continued development in housing?
Thank you. This next question, we're going to start with you, Theresa. Give us an example of one thing you believe the City Council bungled, and how would you correct the issue?
I think perhaps early on, trying to communicate with the community on the changes in the fire district. I don't disagree with how we proceeded, but ensuring that they understood across the city why and how and everything that took place. Had we got that out right away so that they all understood the need for those changes and why we chose to move forward with the Edgerton and Milton Township design, perhaps there wouldn't have been the confusion and the idea that they didn't support it. I think eventually when it got out more clearly and it was sent out in their newsletter, that more people understood it and could support it because it was clearer. But yeah, I think that opened the communication up very clearly to people. And they could ask questions and understood that it actually gave them a safer environment.
Thank you. Sharla Walker, same question. Give us an example of one thing you believe the City Council bungled, and how would you correct that issue?
I'm actually going to say I'm not aware of anything I feel like the City Council has bungled. I believe as a citizen of Milton, I had every opportunity to do my research with the fire department, not disagreeing with Theresa at all, but I don't know if, I know it's very difficult to be an alder person to make the decisions that are best for all citizens in our community. And I guess I trust and know that each council person did their research in the decisions that they make. And I sit on my planning commission, and I know, I've learned so much from the guys that are on there, and they do their research, and they've taught me so much. So I really can't answer that question. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, give us an example of one thing you believe that the City Council bungled, and how would you correct that issue?
Well, as I mentioned, I was very concerned that the firemen in the Milton Fire Department were not more involved in how this evolved. That is water under the bridge now. But there needs to be a thought process of including the people that are involved in the fire department more clearly. I'm hoping that the goodwill will return. It's a little slow in getting its momentum going, but we're evolving, so I'm trusting that it will go forward well.
Thank you. Sharla Walker, next question. Give us an example of one thing that you believe the City Council has done extremely well, and how would you replicate that outcome?
I think one thing that the City Council does very well is, I believe, the civic engagement. I have been very impressed with the council and the mayor reaching out to its citizens, asking opinions, getting them involved, notifying the notices and the information that they constantly update on their website, so that we can all be notified and engaged and find our areas where we're able to help and support, and different committees we're able to be a part of to continue the growth in the city.
Okay. Thank you. Nancy, same question. Give us an example of one thing that you believe the City Council has done extremely well, and how would you replicate that outcome?
Well, the industrial park development is one of the best examples of how they have made a positive impact in Milton and made Milton able to pay its taxes, and have done a wonderful job in cultivating it and still encouraging people to keep on expanding in their industrial parks. So I give them an A for industrial parks.
Okay, very good. And Theresa, same question. Give us an example of one thing that you believe the City Council has done extremely well, and what would you do to replicate that outcome?
I think over time, over the last 10 years, I think building and living by strategic planning. When it first started, we did bits and pieces of it by putting together a 5-year plan of a budget, and then as you go by each year, you might have been able to do 80% of it, then you take the 20%, add it to year 2, and begin to revise it, move on. But then again, we would sit down and say, now our goals have to match the financial plan, and eventually, as we are now, that strategic plan is all encompassed in one plan as we move forward. And we evaluate it year to year. It's modified, and the goals, the financial plans, everything moves forward together. And those decisions are made together as a group, and everything on paper matches it. When you make decisions, someone will say, okay, does it fit with the goals? Did we meet our goals? And so forth.
Thank you.
Yes.
This next question will start with you, Nancy. City finance is a constant issue requiring your attention. Does the state shared revenue formula need attention? And if you had the power, how would you correct any deficiencies with the current funding formula?
Current funding formula needs to be addressed as they did the gerrymandering of the districts. It is a very major question on a different way to proceed, which I am not knowledgeable enough in what the best way to go forward is, but it should be looked at and addressed for ways to improve, because it is quite spotty, and some of the outcomes are way more profitable than others. So I would hope that the state will review their policies shortly.
Thank you, Nancy. Theresa, same question. City finance is a constant issue requiring your attention. Does the state shared revenue formula need attention? And if you had the power, how would you correct any deficiencies with the current funding formula?
Oh, it needs lots of work. How would I correct it? As Nancy said, the gerrymandering did change it a lot. In terms of protecting what each area has and the voting. I think that trying to balance the delivery of each of those areas, trying to ensure that the citizenry of each of those areas is equally balanced in terms of the money that areas receive, the funding levels are balanced, is a very complex process, and it does take some cooperation at the state level. How they arrive at that it's going to take some cooperation, a lot of cooperation. How they reach that is beyond me.
Thank you, Theresa. Sharla Walker, same question. City finance is a constant issue requiring your attention. Does the state shared revenue formula need attention? And if you had the power, how would you correct any deficiencies with the current funding formula?
You know, I think, obviously, as a business owner, being aware of your funding is always a huge issue. It's the number one way to thrive and survive. Working with the city staff and asking and talking to them about, you know, their day-to-day and how they are dealing with state funding, there is uncertainty, and how I would solve that, if I had all the power in the world, what would I do with it? I would ask at this point in time, I'd ask my experts. I'd ask my city representatives and understand, like, where is the best way to navigate through this process by looking at the data and looking at how does it match up to our strategic plan and where we want to go with this.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to shift gears ever so gingerly, and we'll start this question with you, Theresa. Through the years, there's been an increased reliance on fees for services as an approach to funding city services. Is that a fair and equitable way to fund city services? And what are the limits, as you see it, to funding government services on a transactional basis?
You know, I think that until we get the budgeting on a basis, you know, we're still at budgeting levels across the state, which is where we get most of our money in a community of this size, from about 10 years ago. And so until we can get some of that up to date on how they assess community taxes in communities for this size, it makes it very difficult for a city this size to continue to meet the needs of anything that's increasing. For example, increasing wages of our staff in this community, increasing their insurance costs, anything. And so, and the road problems, we have to fix the roads, we have to do all kinds of things, and yet we can't increase the budget in any way. So we had to come up with a wheel tax. And I'm red.
Thank you, Theresa. Sharla Walker, same question. Through the years, there's been an increased reliance on fees for services as an approach to funding city services. Is that a fair and equitable way to fund city services? And what are the limits, as you see it, to funding government on using a transactional basis, a transactional fee type basis?
You know, I really need that question written out in front of me. That's a really long and good one. I don't think I'm always going to go back to what is our strategic plan? What if our city council, what have we come up with our strategic plan? Why did we put that strategic plan? And then how are we using it and balancing, our fees, whether that is fair or not fair, whether raising taxes is fair or not fair, any kinds of referendums, is that fair or not fair? I think going back to looking at the data, looking at how much the world has changed, are we in a recession, are we not in a recession? Going back to what is our strategic plan? How is it going to carry us forward and be able to balance our budget and live within our budgeting means? And how is the state, how are we using those funds wisely?
Okay, thank you. Nancy, same question. Through the years, there's been an increased reliance on fees for service as an approach to funding city services. Is that a fair and equitable way to fund city services? And what are the limits, as you see it, to funding government services on a transactional basis?
The transactional basis, such as paying your dog tags or renting a pavilion, I think are appropriate for the city to administer. The overall effect of the budget is still overruled by the state until we look at the entire package. That's a piecemeal approach, which I don't disagree with, but it is not the answer to the question of how to know where our funding is coming from.
Okay, thank you. Let's shift gears again, and we'll start this round with you, Sharla. Under what circumstances would you support advisory referendums going on the ballot as a means of measuring public sentiment? For example, could the fire district question have been resolved in that fashion?
You brought up the R word. Could it have been solved? Possibly and potentially. I think looking backwards, we can only learn from what we can. I think referendum from the school board years ago, I walked into the community and the community was still upset and it was still a hot topic. There's another referendum with the school board coming up on this ballot. So how do we balance the budget? How do we balance the needs to the money that we have? That's a great question. I think looking again at, I fully believe in the strategic plan that has been set before us and constantly aligning and looking at, increasing our tax base, balancing service delivery with priorities. Those are constantly realigning with what is the data telling us and how do we continue to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Lauder, same question. Under what circumstances would you support advisory referendums on the election ballot as a means of measuring public sentiment? For example, could the fire district question have been resolved in that fashion?
I don't think it's resolved because you have a lot of history playing into that, but you would have had your public opinion expressed in a format that could be used. And so in that regard, since it was a non-binding question, it would be an appropriate question to ask because these are the people that are paying your taxes.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Theresa, same question. Under what circumstances would you support an advisory referendum going on the ballot as a means of measuring public sentiment?
I don't know. There's a point where you have elected officials. You elect them to deal with issues, and that's what they were doing. There's a point where you could have an advisory on just about anything out there, you opened the door to school systems. 10, 15 years ago, we changed the layout of schools in Milton from K6 or K8 to K3 to 4-6 to 7-8 to 9-12 because it adjusted to how we needed to build. We were running out of space. Well, we didn't stop and do an advisory to ask everyone how they wanted to lay that out. We had to move forward. We needed to build a school we did a referendum on building, but we didn't ask everyone's opinion on how they wanted to do it. We did taken a long time to find that out, and really they had chosen a school board to make those decisions on what would have been best for children. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're still in the yellow.
Let's change gears again, and we'll start with you, Nancy, on this one. If elected or re-elected, how do you want the general public to evaluate your performance?
Please phone and tell me. It would be a direct approach which would allow for some give or take or reflection on how they reached their commentary. And that would be, to me, the most useful way of evaluating how my job is doing. Please phone.
Okay, very good. Theresa, if elected or re-elected, how do you want the general public to evaluate your performance?
I would agree. Call me, talk to me, which some people have.
Yes.
But yes, if you disagree or something, that's the idea of having an elected official. You need to speak with them. You have, they're there to represent you. And if you want to give your opinion, you need to share that. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Sharla Walker, if elected or re-elected, how do you want the general public to evaluate your performance?
I think I hate to repeat, but one of the things that my business said in my handbook, I always have all my staff sign is, I believe in direct and honest communication, and I don't believe in drama. So one of the things that I would always love and encourage is for someone to tell me how I'm doing, any thought, ideas. We all have opinions and we can agree to disagree. But I feel like it's one of the reasons I started my coffee shop, because I wanted to build community. And the community I hear is in our shop all the time, and I have the opportunity to hear so much information and be told, and I learn so much from each person that shares. I hear about big topics, small topics, and lots of opinions. So I would want the same as these two ladies, is I would want somebody to tell me directly and have an idea of how to solve it as well, not just give me their opinion on how I'm doing, but what could I be doing better.
Okay, thank you. Along the same line, Theresa, civic engagement is a concept we hear about on a regular basis. How would you, as a member of the council, promote and practice your definition of civic engagement?
I try to get involved in some activities so you can get out to meet people. You had brought up a question about working with homelessness, for example, and I take part in making meals at the gift center for homeless men, and trying to show them that we all can be a part of their lives, or take part in the activities on the east side of town that we have when they're selling things, trying to think of what they call it. Market Day.
Community days.
And so that if someone wants to approach you and talk with you to get their thoughts about something, and just being out in the community and being able to talk to you. I don't have a business that I own, but there are lots of other ways to get engaged.
Okay, thank you. Sharla Walker, same question. Civil engagement is a concept we hear about on a regular basis. How will you, as a member of the council, promote and practice your definition of civic engagement?
Civic and civil?
Civil civic engagement, yes.
Civic civil engagement.
Maybe I misstated.
I think that I do have the opportunity to own a business. However, that does get me involved. However, I believe in creating my present and my future. So I believe in giving back. A lot of different people ask me how I've gotten so involved in my short 2 years of living in Milton, and I volunteer for a lot of things. I'm at the 4th of July event volunteering, or, we created a trunk or treat up at actually right here last year. We created a Merry Milton Market because I want events where I can be with my neighbors and be with my community, and events that I feel proud to bring my family and my friends to. I feel like that is, I will continue to create these events to hopefully live longer than myself.
Good, thank you. Nancy Lauder, same question. Civic engagement's a concept we hear about on a regular basis. How will you, as a member of the council, promote and practice your definition of civic engagement?
As the ladies have said, going to the events, the 4th of July, the farmers market days, and even going to PIG, you learn more in the way of what's going on in town going to the grocery store than one would anticipate. But to be out and about, and I have a large dog that I used to walk, but he got too big. But it's amazing when you run into people that they will tell you what they think. And one-on-one, you get a lot more information.
That's a long story I could share with you about how my time in the grocery store extended from 45 minutes for shopping to 4 hours for shopping.
My husband was sitting out in the car, and he can tell you about all. Anyway, yes.
Indeed. We're going to shift gears again. Sharla, if we could, preparing the city's annual budget is considered one of the most important tasks undertaken by the City Council. What life experience has prepared you for this task? And frankly, please explain how you intend to prepare for this undertaking.
It's a great question. Life experience to prepare me for the task. So I have been in banking most of my career, marketing and banking. So helping and dealing with the public on a regular basis, working at a credit union specifically, was one of the services we provided, was working on budgets, working on credits, working on and helping people. And to a grander scale, now owning my own business, I know that it's vital to know my budget, to be doing my strategic planning, to know where I want to go and where I've been. And I believe that working, again, I feel like I've said this word over and over, the strategic plan and making sure that we're constantly balancing and using the advisors around me. I'm going to be brand new, but I know Theresa's been on the council for many, many years. I know Kelsey at the city, is working as our financial guru. So working with, Al, who's been around forever, just understanding and taking their advice and letting their leadership guide us so that it is a strength and I can bring something to the table in years to come.
Thank you, Sharla. Nancy, same question. Preparing the city's annual budget is considered one of the most important tasks undertaken by the City Council. What life experiences have prepared you for this task? And please explain how you intend to prepare for the undertaking.
by paying attention. What in my previous life, I owned and operated a dairy, and the Dairy Lee went against their producers and took the money to pay Dairy Lee bills. Anyway, so I have had a diversity of disastrous things. Since living in Milton, we had 8 apartments, and that is a fascinating study in how to prepare. You never spend everything, because the hot water tank will talk to the one in 803 and do 202, and one must be conservative in how you share what you have, but go around and fix things first, because it is cheaper. But this, in Milton's budget, I really would like to see what the budget is before I make any wise comments, because there is probably a circumstance that brought that around. I would like to know the circumstances of how what look like dilemmas have appeared on the budget.
Thank you. Theresa, same question. Preparing the city's annual budget is considered one of the most important tasks undertaken by the City Council. What life experiences has prepared you for the task, and please explain how you intend to prepare for this undertaking.
You know, I think as part of my work in the school system, I always had to do an annual budget and at the school level, and then participated in the district level. And so both of those gave me a reminder of how to work within a government setting in establishing those procedures. So I brought those into this level in working governmentally. I also, while in the school system, went back to get a degree in school and business management. So I was still learning that procedure, again, through the school system, but picking it up through government management. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, we're going to start with you this time. Challenges for sustainable funding for basic services is a constant matter of discussion with the council. What do you see as long-term fixes to that issue of local funding options?
Local funding options are intermixed with state funding options. So I would hope that as part of that question, that there will be questions to the state on how they will revise some of the lumps and bumps in their way of apportioning funds, because that will affect us more, unfortunately, than what we do locally. But locally, we need to observe what is prudent in keeping repaired, because keeping things repaired is the shortest way to save money that I know. Without having any specifics, I don't know how to say besides being observant and going around and watching.
Okay, thank you. Theresa, same question. Challenges for sustainable funding for basic services. It's a constant matter of discussion with the council. What do you see as long-term fixes to the issue of local funding options?
I think just that we all need to be very aggressive in sharing those concerns with our local and statewide legislators. We also need to be as aggressive as we can be in searching for grant support, and that goes with road care and other areas that you can pick up ideas and avenues to go through with grants at local levels, state levels, and federal levels. And while that may not be for care beyond annual grants, it still gives money to complete, as I said, road care and some of those areas to at least keep it moving forward on an annual basis. But it is something that has to take place at a state level.
Very good, thank you. Sharla Walker, challenges for sustainable funding for basic services is a constant matter of discussion with the council. What do you see as long-term fixes to the issues of local funding options?
You know, a few things come to mind, and I think what both Nancy and Theresa said were right on, but, you know, I think, you know, we're always, I think in privately and professionally and the different boards and committees I'm on, we're always looking at grant options, both federally and state. We're also, I know, looking, you know, working on the planning commission, we're always looking at what businesses are coming in, talking with the city, how can we increase our tax base, how are we attractive to new businesses, new and new citizens as well. And so looking at just balancing that and how are we able to grow.
Very good. Theresa, Sharla, you are next on that list. Are you ready for the next? So let's shift gears again here. We're going to start with Theresa this time on this
Okay.
question, okay?
You can go ahead.
Thank you.
I mean,
No,
I'm a sharer.
Hmm?
I like to give.
Okay, that's good of you to share.
Yeah.
You caught me thinking ahead to doing some other things, so I'm going to shift gears again if I
Okay.
could. And Theresa, you can start this time. Should cities be allowed to levy a sales tax, and if so, how would you use any proceeds?
You know, I think that they should be, but not just randomly do so. It really needs to be meant for significant needs. It also needs to have a source that is unique and either set forth by state goals or parameters. For example, I know it could be if you had a hotel or motel, and some of those guidelines are already set forth, that you can pick up the tax through those. But to just arbitrarily say that you're going to set a tax and use it for, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but now is when it should turn red. I'm trying to think of an example when you'd want it. I'm lost. But like I said, to just arbitrarily do it because you wanted to clean your parks, you really need to have a goal that everyone is supportive of. So, now it's red.
Now,
Okay, thank you. Sharla, should cities be allowed to levy a sales tax? And if so, how would you use any of the proceeds?
it sounds like you want to. How would I love it? We'll see. You know, I think I was in a great, I actually remember when Milwaukee actually had this discussion where they wanted to increase it 0.5% to build a stadium, or to, yeah, it went from County Stadium to Miller Park, anyways. And it was obviously a huge issue. I actually lived in Edgerton before I moved to the great city of Milton. And the tourism tax, I was a part of that. And that was very fascinating to watch, because you are charging this extra tax. I feel like Edgerton and Rock County really they were very smart in the way that they rolled that out. Unfortunately, Milton, we don't have the opportunity because we don't have any beds for our heads, if you will, right? So we don't have any rentals that we're able to use that tourism tax and bring that into the city. So do we build a hotel? Do we build, you know, and that's kind of the growth that we're talking about. Are we able to attract, and do we have the area to be able to grow in that area? Now, could we just arbitrarily say, hey, we're gonna increase our tax 0.5% when you're in the city of Milton? I hope not, because sales tax might actually hurt my business and the retails around me. So, I feel like going back and looking at the data and looking at, how, if this is something that we're able to, imitate other communities that have been able to successfully do it, I'm red.
Okay, thank you, Sharla. Nancy, should cities be allowed to levy a sales tax, and if so, what would you use the proceeds? How would you use the proceeds?
Well, if the city, with the few people that are on council and the mayor, declared that we will tax you some more, I have this feeling of a stake running into a ground and a bunch of firewood around it, that it would be very poorly received because it was too localized an issue. If you were, going to save the whales or something, it would be a different, more universal. But I cannot, at this moment, imagine a request for some specific tax project that would be well received in a small community. So I would not think that is one of the better ideas.
Okay, very good, thank you. We have just a few minutes left, so I think it's time for us to bring this to conclusion. Sharla, we're going to start with you. Please summarize why the residents of Milton should elect you to serve in the City Council.
I believe that I'm a great candidate. I have a thirst for understanding. I am a very moldable person in the sense that I like to do my research. I believe in seeking counsel, and I'm very passionate for my community. I want to see our community, this amazing community, grow, expand, but yet keep, our Milton way of life. And I believe that, I have a lot to learn, but I would be surrounded, and I'm surrounded by amazing individuals that have a ton of experience. The more I'm involved in this city, the more I love it, and am trying to bring my entire family here, because I believe in the growth of this city.
Thank you. Nancy Loudon, please summarize why the residents of Milton should elect you to serve on the City Council.
Well, my view is that the City Council is a collection of people with diverse views, and the diversity should be respected and talked through so that there is a consensus, some more excited and positive, with the council going forward with diversity. Milton has a wonderful collection of positive things, the library, the gathering place, and the fact that our roads are better cleared of snow than anything else, any place else I've lived. Mm-hmm. And it just is a wonderful place to live, but you do need a positive consensus. So I would like to be on council just so that I can help with a positive consensus of how to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Theresa, please summarize why the residents of Milton should elect you to serve in the City Council.
I believe that many things have happened over the last 10 years, and Anissa mentioned them, so I don't want to be too redundant, but that the debt ratio has dropped considerably. It has taken a great deal of group support, and they, in addition to working to build a wonderful industrial park and build the work on developing the TID districts around that area as well as in the city, and being able to support the TIF monies that have supported the growth in that area. It has allowed people to bring in a great deal of business that has supported all of those areas and the ability to drop that ratio. It also had the development of a strategic plan that we can all live by as part of the council has allowed us to do everything thoughtfully and move forward together in doing that.
Thank you. Nancy Lauder, Theresa Rusch, and Sharla Walker, thank you for participating tonight. I apologize we didn't get to all the questions that were generated in the audience, but I'm hopeful that you'll be willing to stick around afterwards and visit with the good folks that have taken the time to join us tonight.
Thank you for putting this whole event on.
It's been a real pleasure, and I'd remind folks that this is being live streamed on Facebook as we speak. It'll be rebroadcast beginning next week on both YouTube and on your local access television station. So I'd invite you to spend a little time following up if you have an interest. My motto goes back to 3 very simple phrases: get informed, get involved, and make a difference for your community, as these folks have proven that they want to do. So thank you for your time and have a wonderful evening.